This is a fact of Islamic history. There was a great controversy and what they would call it fitna or fitan, where you had a group of Muslims who were called the Mutazilites, Mutazila. And this would be your expertise. They were highly influenced by Greek philosophy, Aristotle, Plato, and they were called basically the rationalists. In their view, you could not posit a real distinction between the attributes and essence of Allah without violating Allah's unicity, Allah being absolutely one. And so they had a problem with those, we can call them proto-Orthodox Muslims. I don't know what other term to say, proto-Salafi? Anyway, because there were Muslims who were saying, like Ahmed ibn Hanbal, Allah's attributes are not identical to the essence, and the Quran is one of the attributes of Allah. It's kalam Allah, speech of Allah. As Allah's speech, it is uncreated, but it's not Allah. So they came up with this fancy slogan. Allah's attributes are not Allah, but they're not other than Allah. One more time. Allah's attributes, they're not Allah, but they're not other than Allah. So the Quran is not Allah, but it's not other than Allah. The Mutazilites came back and saying, you're no different, no better than the Christians. What makes you different from the Christians who say of Isa, he is the word of God who became flesh, and yet God is one. So you're basically saying the same thing as the Christians are saying, and yet when the Christians say it, you see it's a violation of Allah's unicity, but when you believe something similar, all of a sudden you jump through hoops, right, to try to justify it rationally. So then in the 9th century, 800s, when the caliphs were Mutazilites, like you had the Caliph al-Mu'min, these guys, their names, and then Ma'mun.
All right, so I think his connection cut out.
Oh, okay.
You're back. Your connection cut out.
Yeah, sorry,
You're back.
I don't know why. Someone's saying I'm using Kristen's internet. Sorry, I don't know. For some reason, it's acting up. So which part cut off?
You were talking about the names of the caliphs.
Yeah. Caliph al-Ma'mun and Mutim, when they were the caliphs, they were Mutazilites. They were imprisoning, beating, and killing the Muslims who said the Quran is uncreated. One of the folks they threw in prison and whipped and beat was Ahmed ibn Hanbal. There is a school of Islamic jurisprudence named after him, the Hanbali school. And those who refused to say the Quran is created were beaten, were imprisoned, and some were killed. So Islam had their own type of Aryans because there was a debate, and it's called the Mihna. And it's mentioned by Muslim historians like Tabari. And this exploded in the 9th century, where the Mutazilites, influenced by Greek philosophy, and the traditionalists came to blows on the issue of, are the attributes really distinct from the essence, or are there no distinction? And if they're distinct, how can Allah be absolutely one? And is the Quran created or uncreated? Because if you say it's uncreated and it's not Allah, now you posit more than one uncreated entity, even though one is the cause of the other. So the Mutazilites were their Aryans because they said the Quran was created. And the so-called traditions like Ahmed ibn Hanbal were their Trinitarians. So at the end of the day, who won out? The Sunnis who say Quran is uncreated. The attributes of Allah are uncreated. They're not identical to the essence. They're not identical to Allah, but they're not other than Allah. And they came up with a very fancy term called Billah Kayf. When they can't say something or explain it, say, Allahu Alam, Billah Kayf.
We don't know.
We don't know, and only, according to Allah. So isn't it ironic they have their own Trinitarians that also had to struggle to become the dominant view?
True for thee, not for me. So that's the standard here. Double standards are the standard. That's the point. Yeah. And by the way, so we're allowed to have all the differentiations in Allah. If you have differentiations, you're a heretic, you're a pagan. And it's funny because every time Jake has been pinned on these points, whether it was Dr. Bo Branson or whether it's Dr. Khalil Adnani, he just crumbles. And then picks himself back up and acts like it never happened. I don't know if you've seen those exchanges.